Hair is good, and we are live on Genesis Office Hours number 16. Welcome, everybody. Today I've got the California contingent joining me with Ozzy Rodriguez and Mickey K.
Finally,
hello, gentlemen.
we've been left out for a long time.
Represent.
It's about time, yeah. It's not even just California, it's Northern California. The good part.
Since you guys finally unionized and submitted a proposal to get on, it's just working out better that way. We timed it nicely, apparently, to follow on the heels of the U.S. game, and sorry, Team USA, for your loss. Ozzy, you just heard...
We still advanced. I think we're playing Belgium, which is, I don't know. I'm sure they're very good at soccer, so there's a long up road ahead of the U.S. soccer team, but whatever.
All right. Well, today we're not talking soccer, but we are talking the Genesis framework. Ozzy, introduce yourself. Tell the world.
Just a developer. Oh, you're like breaking up. I'm a Genesis developer out of San Jose, California, all the time, and I'm here. And I'm sick. I'm a little sick, but I'm battling through.
You can do it. Mickey, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about yourself.
I'm Mickey. I live in Oakland, California, just about an hour away from where Ozzy's at. And I work at Mighty Minnow Web Studio and School here in Oakland. We're a WordPress shop. All the sites we build are built on Genesis, and particularly on some starter child theme stuff we do.
Cool. Yeah, I was actually just checking out Trestle earlier over on GitHub, and once we get into the show, I'll get you to tell us a little bit more about that, but wanted to welcome everybody who's joining us on Twitter today. We're trying something new and leaving the chat room and using the GOH chat hashtag. You can see it there in my lower third bar. If you want to send in questions to our guests or just comment, shoot the bull, then use that hashtag to do it. And if you don't want to spam your Twitter stream with that hashtag, just direct your tweets to @CDills and use that hashtag. That way you don't have to pester everybody in your timeline. Or you can just bug them.
I say pester them. Hi, Stacy. I guess she's watching. But she goes to one of the meetups. She's one of the co-organizers of one of the meetups in the area.
Oh, nice.
That I go to. So. Very
nice. All right. So other than watching soccer, Ozzy, what are you up to these days? What are you working on?
I have a couple client projects. I do mostly client work. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. So I work with a lot of agencies so their clients don't know I'm really ever involved. Have a lot of that stuff going on. I don't know. Before we went live, we were talking about like ideas. We were talking about themes and like theme creation, which was like pretty funny. Just because we kind of have like the same kind of ideas, like like there's a lot of theme shops going on or starting up and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I actually have like a theme done. I don't know what I want to do with it, but we'll see.
All right, and then Mickey, you've got Trestle, which is your Genesis starter theme, and then you create custom themes. Do you actually have any out in the marketplace to buy?
No, that's something like we were talking about before the show. That's something I'd really have a lot of curiosity and hesitation on doing. It's something I'd like to do, and the issue these days is just time. It's a lot of client work. That's where pretty much all the theming we do goes into, and so many of those themes could be transferable with a bit of work, probably quite a bit of work, into some themes to share with the world at large. But no, not now.
All right. Well, there's been so much discussion on the web this week about sort of the future of premium WordPress products, specifically themes, and Chris Lemma has written I think every day this week on that topic specifically. And Tom McFarlane over on his blog has addressed it too. And it's interesting. I don't know that I want to crack open the can of worms that is GPL, but earlier on a Monday, there's a little podcast called the WP Water Cooler, and they got to talking about the GPL and what it means to sell free software and how it's kind of a.
I think you're hearing Oakland.
That is Oakland. So Ozzy, to answer
coming
your
after you
question,
right
yes,
now?
we're working up out of Oakland.
That's Oakland. Like, that's Oakland. That's Oakland deals. That's Oakland, everybody.
Outside the window all day, it's either that or some people yelling outside.
Yeah,
The other.
there's sirens.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just out here in Texas suburbia with occasional dog barking, Freedom jet flying over, that kind of
Freedom
stuff.
Jet.
But anyway, yeah, so some interesting discussions on, are you actually selling the theme, the software, because under GPL that code is free to redistribute or modify or use in any way, or are you selling the service of making that? A lot of interesting kind of semantic.
I don't know. I think when you sell a theme that you create, I don't think you're selling you're selling like the effort that it took to make it, but I think you're selling support, which is why everybody is saying, well, you need to charge more.
Yeah.
It's because you don't get support when you buy them. Say like you download a theme, it's GPL, you can't really do anything about it as a theme creator. So say like one of your themes, Carrie, like utility theme. Say I were to just download it and I didn't buy it from you and I just found it somewhere. I'm not getting support. Which is kind of a big deal. Like if I run into issues or for whatever reason, I think that's what you're buying a big chunk of.
Yeah, I agree, but if you're buying support, I would say that we're pricing themes very incorrectly because
Totally.
$45, somewhere in that $30 to $50 range for a premium theme. If I answer one or two pre-sales questions and have even one post-sales support question, I've used maybe 30 or 40 minutes of my time, and depending on how I value my time, I've eaten into the cost of the theme to support it. I mean, right out the gate. So I think looking at ways to creatively handle support or to creatively handle the pricing around support so that the people, I don't know that the token system is the right way to go, but the idea of it should be the people who are requiring the most support that are paying for that, and that cost burden isn't necessarily passed on to the rest of
You know what
people
the
that
funny
never.
thing is? The people that complain the most about theme prices, oh, they're so expensive, whatever, they are the biggest support hoggers ever. They're the ones that I have questions about everything. Aren't they? Am I wrong? Like, please, like if I'm wrong, like use the hashtag and blow me up. But I don't think I am.
No, there was on one of Chris Lemma's posts, there were some great discussions in the comments. And by the way, I'll after the show, I'll throw all these links up in the show notes so that you can follow up on them. But Nick Croft had pointed out an article citing a study where they sold the exact same product at 3 different price points and then determined over a period of time how many sales and support questions were generated from each one. And what they found was the product that was priced at, I think the increments were maybe like 5, 10, and 50, or maybe it doesn't even matter. But anyway, they all generated the same number of the same profits. So in other words, they might have sold 10 at $5 and 1 at $50, whatever. But the lower priced ones generated by far the most support requests. It's just kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, you commented on that post, right? On the Lemma post?
I did.
Yeah, that was like really interesting. But it's true, like, I mean, in general, people kind of, I don't know, they expect way more than they should.
I think also there's been this general push recently for just charging more for themes across the board, which
Yeah.
is so hard to do now that the price point's set so low. But it seems like so many blog posts I've been reading about themes lately are saying we got to start charging more, we got to start charging more. But who's going to be the first theme shop to really start pushing that, and how long will it take to boost the average price up?
Well, and one of the things that have come up in the discussions this week is that not every theme is going to warrant that higher price tag, right? I mean, maybe it's not worth it, or maybe there's not support behind it or whatnot. So looking at really segmenting the market. So you'll continue to see these free themes or low cost, basic blogger themes at a certain price point, whatever. And then maybe other theme shops are going to push that higher end of the market. Like Ozzy, we were talking before the show about flagship themes.
Yep.
That
They're going to enter the market at a higher price point, at a higher entry point. Yeah.
Interesting. So we got some good conversations going on the GOH chat hashtag. Agreeing, I think, for the most part. How can you listen live? Oh, Amanda, you've got to refresh. Looks like you got that. I don't know. So shifting gears a little bit, Mickey, since you're not providing themes for sale, but are doing custom themes for clients, do you typically handle ongoing support for your customers, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, we're a WordPress shop, so we have a lot of ongoing relationships with clients. And typically, if they run into anything down the road, I mean, the ones we hear back from are the ones that are coming back to us. So we do offer support. And a lot of times, because we're not just building it from scratch and then no one sees it until it's distributed, with them, we're working through the whole development process from like our boilerplate theme all the way to when it's built out with the custom functionality and design. So a lot of the initial support stuff gets covered along the way. And then ongoing, when they want to add features or they come across something that's acting wonky, they'll usually come back to us and we handle it.
And what's the, just folks may not be, have met you yet, what's the average type of project you work on, or average scope?
So probably the best way to say it is we do a lot of like medium-sized business nonprofit sites. Like, what's a good example? Right now we're working on and have worked on the Indiegogo Knowledge Center portion of their site. So that's on the bigger side. But we do a lot of nonprofit work for medium-sized places as well as individuals. So we'll do a lot of one of the places we get the most sites built, although it's less work, is we teach a website weekend class where we're teaching people in a weekend how to use a WordPress theme. Usually they're using something like Genesis or an all-in-one theme like Jupyter or something, building it out over the course of the weekend, and then we're helping them ongoing. And it's a much lower price point because we're not having to do all the custom functionality and theming and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of attendance do you usually get on those?
So we teach those classes every month and a half, and a full class for us is 10 people. And usually we're somewhere around 6, 7 people.
Okay. Now oh, go ahead.
We guarantee a 3-to-1 teacher-student ratio. So past a certain point, it starts to get hard to track down folks who can help us with the class to run it.
It's hard to get people to come up to Oakland.
Yeah, those sirens, man. Nobody wants to come into our building.
Well, you guys have the same problems with parking that you do in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, it can get pretty crazy here. We're right by BART, so it's not that bad.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I can always BART it up there. That's fine.
Hashtag California problems.
Yeah.
Real world problems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So shoot your questions over via the GOH chat hashtag. If you have any questions about working in an agency or freelancing, Mickey would be great to field those. Ozzy's got a lot of great experience working really with front end development, and you've got a great eye for design as well. Ozzy, what's your preference? Do you like being in the code or making it?
I'd much rather be in the code. Making it pretty is fun. The thing is with pretty, it's so subjective. I guess sometimes it is. I mean, you can do some stuff that's like blatantly awful, which there's a lot of that out there. But like I don't think you have to do anything too crazy in order to make something look good. You can really screw stuff up when it comes to coding stuff. So I mean, something can be like super pretty, but you look under the hood and it's all greasy and there's hoses missing, and so I'd much rather be that like delve into that world. But
I don't think
do
I've
the
ever
design.
stumbled on a theme that had hoses missing and greasy parts.
You haven't seen some of the stuff that I have. You haven't bought a theme off the theme for us, or had a client, hey, can you fix this off the theme for us? Oh, no offense. I know, like we had on the last episode of WP Bacon, we had the quality guy from Theme Forest. It's like we're getting to that, but you know, we've all heard that stuff. I actually saw that. Have you guys seen the X theme or X the theme?
Yeah.
Go look at it, Carrie. It's like it'll. I mean, you'll be able to create a website, but it'll like have your babies for you, and it'll clean your house.
Wow.
And it does everything.
And it costs $55 or something
60,
like that, right?
60. They raised it's 60 now.
Lifetime supply.
Yeah. Babies.
Yeah.
Ozzy, you've now been officially quoted on Twitter for Greasy Theme Forest.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm not the only one. We're gonna do like what are those like crowd, like the crowd tilt. We're gonna crowd tilt to get Jake with a code on it, like either a Veda or X.
Ah.
I don't know how much we'd have to. I don't know how much we'd have to raise to get him to do it.
I don't know.
That was up on Twitter a few weeks ago.
Very fun. Amanda says that when a client buys from Theme Forest, it breaks the universe and baby Jesus cries. And possibly small birds are killed as well. I'm not sure. So Joe has a question for all of us. Mickey, are you part of a team or do you do your own thing?
Yeah, I'm part of a team right now. I work at the studio where it's a small team. There are 2 of us. And I also, so that's my day job. I'm here 4 days a week. And then on the side, I do less freelance stuff now just because I don't have time, which is something I want to shift so that I can do freelance and work on some more personal projects and a few plugins and theme ideas that I want to flesh out.
Cool. And
I'm a part of a team of 1. I'm like a tennis
Ozzy,
player.
party of 1, your table is ready.
I'm a tennis player who doesn't do doubles. So yeah, I'm a freelancer. I work for myself, by myself most of the time. I do get brought on by, I was saying earlier, agencies. I do work with other developers. I mean, I do work well with people, but people
I
like
don't know. That's questionable.
Yeah, well.
So last week on the show, we talked quite a bit about finding other designers and developers to partner with. And so, Ozzy, in the case of the agencies that you've found, like how did did they approach you, or how did that unfold?
Yeah, I actually haven't approached any agencies. They've kind of found me, and then a lot of it is word of mouth. There's like 3. There's 3 in the area that I work with quite a bit. I won't name names. So they found me, and a lot of it's word of mouth. But it's the same thing with like word of mouth. I'm sure that's how you get like a ton of your work, right, Carrie? Just word of mouth. People have heard of you.
Word of mouth. I don't do a lot of partnering with agencies. Usually I end up...
You're too good for that.
No, I wouldn't say I'm too good for that, but I've historically enjoyed the client acquisition, client management, project management aspect of the work. So if something is outside of my scope to complete, I'll subcontract it out. But I generally don't find myself on the other side of that equation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
It's fun though.
I had a question from Jackie about the tools and workflow that you use for design. Mickey, I'll let you take that first.
Yeah, sure. So I do design work, but I'm less working in Photoshop and Illustrator, although I do that, and a lot more in browser stuff. That's where I came up and learned, and CSS is my strongest suit, and so designing in browser is pretty easy. But my tool set's essentially Chrome, Sublime, um, and just running like live preview all the time allows for a pretty quick in-browser design. And then when we get to later phase of testing and all that, browser compatibility, then we have a testing lab where we run stuff in. But I'd be happy to be in Sublime all day long.
Cool. Do you have a favorite package that you couldn't live without?
I just started using it, PHP Tidy, which will like code format everything to match WordPress standards, and which like doesn't it shouldn't change the functionality of anything I've created, but it's fun to run it and see like where my formatting was off and try and get that better and better. So in terms of entertainment, that's a great one. But for functionality, Doc Blocker is great for like creating good comments and things like that. I use that all the time. And then of course Live Preview. I'm always running Emmet Lifestyle is the one I use to go back and forth really easily. Yeah.
The PHP Tidy sounds like Gary Jones in a box.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he could one up it.
Figure out where
I'm
your
sure
code and
Gary
format as well.
He'd outdo it. Yeah.
And Gary, I know you're listening, so that one's just for you. Ozzy, what about your design process, or how do you?
So I actually start out with I like to start out with like a sitemap. So I use like SlickPlan for that. I don't wireframe much. I get with the client. We talk about whatever kind of what it is they're looking for, what it is they wanted to go, and then I draw it up in Photoshop and go from there. And as far as Sublime, I forget what it's called, but it's the FTP, whatever.
Oh yeah,
you say.
SFTP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing's magical. I have a few other installed. I do something and then I release these CSS code, SFTP, linter. I'm looking
Yeah,
at
that's
right
great.
now.
Love the linter.
Trailing spaces. Yeah, those are the ones that I use. But it's great that we all use Sublime.
Yeah.
Hey,
You haven't heard Dreamweaver friggin' once. Okay, well except now, but we don't do it.
We started on Dreamweaver.
People,
We have to do a project.
Everybody out there, stop. Just stop doing it.
Okay, for someone that doesn't share your opinion or is currently using Dreamweaver, make your case of why it's not a great development environment. Other than the fact that it's
just because
packaged with Adobe tools.
Yeah, well, just because there's other stuff out there that makes things so much easier for you. Like there's no reason like in Dreamweaver it's not really made to. It's been a couple years since I used it, but like the PHP editing, like Mickey was saying, there's stuff you get like with Sublime. You get a package and it'll put stuff in the right format. You start typing something out and it'll try to guess like what's the function that you're trying to use, or even like style, like in you're editing CSS, you start typing, it'll try to find the rule that you actually want or the property that you wanted to add to the rule. It's just there's stuff out there that'll make your life so much easier. And then especially now with people moving into like SaaS and all of that other stuff, like you're going to get farther and farther away from Dreamweaver. So I just think it's like the bullet.
I think Dreamweaver too is it's like trying to do all things at once, And when you do that, you can't do everything very super well and be the best.
Yeah.
And I was saying we actually did use Dreamweaver on a recent project as part of like a testing the product for them and partnering with another organization. And like it's come so far, but it's also for me when I just want to see my code. I don't need all the crazy hinting. I don't need like live preview in that same application because Chrome can run it. It's just trying to do a lot of things at once, which for someone who doesn't have the ability to write their own code necessarily and needs a live preview right there to drag and drop can be super handy. But the biggest thing for me was that it just like bogged down. I've got a pretty like decent setup here, and it just was slow. And Sublime, one of its greatest strengths for me is just snappy. It's really quick.
All right. Well, you didn't have to convince me, but that sounded good. Gary has a question for you, Mickey. Why do you think that mobile-first design has not filtered down through the Genesis-style child theme community?
That's a great question, Gary. I appreciate that question. So maybe some background to this is that a while back we created, so the precursor to this starter theme I'm talking about is that we took Genesis's basic theme 2.0 and switched the CSS to be mobile first, which essentially all that requires, there's some additional tweaking, but it's essentially switching from max width media queries to min width. And in doing so, it can be somewhat of like a micro optimization time-wise, but philosophically it's basically saying, let's put the least resource load on mobile first as we can, just for those of you who don't know. So mobile devices they have to do the least work, and desktop does a little bit more work, which is how it should be because of the processing power. Why hasn't it trickled down? I wish I knew the answer to that. I want it to, and I'm curious. I'd be curious to hear like Brian's thoughts and the folks over at Studio Press on what their thoughts are on that, if it's in the works or not. I'd love to see it, and I think probably the biggest obstacle is that in switching up all these media queries, the amount of testing that would have to happen would be pretty significant to make sure that all components across all configurations of the basic Genesis setup still render in the way they're supposed to. So I think that's probably one of the hang-ups. Otherwise, though, I'd love to know.
So as a community, like I'm about to piss a lot of people off. Dill's is like, oh, God damn it. But no, so I think as a community, we love the Kool-Aid. We love to drink the Kool-Aid. And I think because the people over at Studio Press haven't done it, they haven't switched. They haven't put out any child themes that said, oh, well, this is mobile first, and this is what you should be doing. Like, if Gardner and Nathan Rice and those guys were to come out and say, no, you guys should be doing mobile first, and here's a theme that does it, people would, like, jump on it like white on rice, dude.
I think you're right, that there's a trickle-down effect. So, Gary, when you're asking why it hadn't filtered down down to the individual theme developer, even though it's easier, I mean, we're more agile developing one or two themes here or there than, say, totally switching gears on that would be for Studio Press. If they're not doing it, then not as many of us are going to do it. I personally have not done it, but I would like to try my hand. So Mickey, maybe you can.
I think Gary's got more pull than any of us do, or maybe you do too. Oh,
here we go again.
It's Oakland.
What was that? SWAT busting down
Oakland.
The door? No, I'm looking to be in the building. The other thing, our fire alarm goes off like every other week. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on here.
It's Oakland.
Toasters all over the city or something.
Sorry, we bag on Oakland.
Yeah.
Oakland's like a nice place. Just drive through it very quickly.
with your window or
Windows.
doors locked, windows up.
It doesn't matter. It don't matter in Oakland.
Shifting topic. You got some more? Give it to me.
I was just going to say, I wonder, for people who are making child themes for Genesis, I wonder how many of them are just taking the default Genesis style sheet and starting from there. And so, like Ozzy says, I bet if that style sheet goes to mobile first within a year, 2 years, we'll start seeing a lot more of it because that's people's starting point anyways, most likely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, and even extend that discussion over to using SaaS. And when Brian Gardner was on Genesis Office Hours a few episodes ago, we asked him about that, and his answer was basically, since that's not, he said it much more nicely than this, but it was essentially only the nerds or the super nerds are using SaaS, and that's not what the majority is used to. So from a support perspective, it makes sense for them to stick with just traditional CSS for now. But I think they do model and set the standard for what a lot of theme developers then go forth and do. So interesting point.
I'm out of OJ. Bring on the coughs.
And Ozzy, you got the spot on from Gary Jones, which
Thanks,
pretty
Gary.
much means you've achieved.
Level up.
You could just
level up.
you could just go to
I'm
bed
level
and call
2.
it a day.
I'm now level 2.
Mickey, a question for you. Working with nonprofits, do you find that they expect to pay less than other businesses, or how do budgeting issues come up there?
Yeah, I'll start with like the exception, which is very rarely we encounter a nonprofit who has a budget that a for-profit might have. It's very rare. And so yeah, nonprofits, I mean, they want to pay less because they can't pay more typically. And I mean, there's a trade-off there. I think really there is philosophically, for us at least. We do like one pro bono project a year, and for a nonprofit that can't afford what they want. But yeah, I mean, generally the price point for a nonprofit is going to be lower, and so it's just a decision really of, is that business we want? Is it a project we're interested in? And is it a good fit? And is it going to stress us? Because the worst thing is to say yes to a nonprofit at a price point that's like half what it should be, or usually even less, and then have that turn into this major fiasco of being like tied in as the only lifeline for that nonprofit when they need support, when they decide they want this massive new feature added onto their site, and they got some person to hack it together and now they need help again or something. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. What do you guys think about that? Do you have experience working with nonprofits as well?
I learned an important lesson around the holiday time. I did a site for a nonprofit, and the person that was that I was dealing with, that was sort of the project manager on their end, I had talked to her originally about doing the site for a very minimal cost, and then submitting the difference as a charitable donation to their organization. And that was all well and good, and I thought a win on both sides. And then when the time came for me to get a receipt for that donation with my time, they were not able to do that. So there was a misfire, and we all survived, and I learned an important lesson, and that is for me moving forward. And I actually just did it on an invoice this past week. If I'm working with a nonprofit or someone that I would like to donate my services to or not charge full price to, I do charge them full price, and then make a charitable donation back to their organization for whatever amount. And I think the value in that is, from their perspective, they understand what something costs in the market, not at a discount, but if they want to go for and get professional web development services or consulting at some point down the line, they have a ballpark. So I haven't done them the disservice of teaching them, or giving them services at a lower price point. But then it's also a win because I'm making a donation back to their organization. So it's kind of a wash in the books, so to speak.
Right.
But I don't know if that was kind of an interesting learning point for me. Ozzy, do you do much work with nonprofits?
No, I don't. And it's not because I just, I mean, I'm a freelancer. If I spend however many weeks doing something, either for free or very limited cost, like, I can't pay my bills. if they want to pay me for my time, I'd love to work with a nonprofit. Um, but I'll gladly I'll gladly give them Mickey's name and see if they can work something out. But I'm more in a spot where I need to pay my bills. So
Yeah, I hear that.
if they want to pay me my rate, or pay me for the project, yeah, no problem. But I haven't had the opportunity.
Well, and some people are commenting over on the Twitter feed that nonprofits does not equal no budget. We kind of think that typically they have no budget, and generally maybe they're just more careful with how they spend their budgets. But I've even worked with nonprofits in the past to try and help them get a grant to fund their web project. And when you can be part of that process, you know that it's going to be budgeted appropriately. And in the case of the one I'm thinking of, the grant didn't go through and I didn't do the work, but at least they knew what it cost.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, how many nonprofits do you get, Mickey, like that come in and say, oh no, we're going to pay you guys for whatever?
How many do we get that what? Say it again.
It's like, oh no, we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you your what you normally charge.
Well, that's hard to say. So I'd also say that we're a team of two here, and I do more of the development, and my colleague boss does a lot more of the client management. But I do hear we talk about it a lot because we're small, and I'd say, I mean, it's very rare that we can just build out a proposal that's like full, and have them say yes. I mean, if we were doing that, that'd be amazing. I can't say like what percentage that is. I don't know. You got to get my boss back on here one day to talk about the business side of this stuff.
I'll come back on and talk about business too.
Bring it on.
After I break Genesis office hours and Carrie starts getting threatened, we won't be able to have Ozzy back on.
I know, it's so thuggish. Police sirens and cursing. I mean, it's like W.P. Bacon up in here.
The sirens are from Oakland. You're definitely going to have that back on. I live in San Jose.
Oh.
We have all the violence, but none of the sirens here.
We're all sirens, man. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all sirens up in Oakland.
Yeah, it's like
none of the violence, all of the sirens. Oh wait, no.
I'd take it. By the way, you guys, I pinged on Twitter to Brian Gardner and Nathan Rice any news on Mobile First for Genesis, and Brian says nothing on the immediate horizon. So I guess that's where it's at.
Yeah, but when you deal with a framework like Genesis, and people use it, this is what we use, it has to come from the top. Like, you're not gonna, I'm sure there's people doing mobile first already on Genesis, but it's not gonna get adopted until it comes from the top. So eventually they'll do it, I'm sure they have to, but just not right now.
Well, the flip side of that coin is educating developers about why that's important. So for those of us who take our cues or do our learning by picking apart other themes in the market, unless we understand why we need to do something differently, we're not going to do it. So Mickey, I look forward to your blog post on mobile first design.
Well, Carrie, I'm glad you say that, because while you were talking, I wrote one. It's up now. There might be some typos, so yeah. Oh, you know what? Hold on, I got to put that too. I forgot the Genesis office hours. I'll add that.
Oh yeah.
Chat.
Wow, he can talk live on the air and do blog post all at the same time.
See, but okay, so you wrote that last year, right? But again,
this was 2013, yeah.
Yeah, you wrote that but it hasn't percolated. It should have.
What?
It hasn't percolated. It hasn't, it hasn't grown from that. People haven't been like, hey, he's right. That's the way we should be. That makes total sense.
Well, in this actually, so there's a link in here for a GitHub, or a demo actually, of a Genesis mobile first child theme that we made. And Gary took a look at it, and I'm sure it probably has issues that need resolving, but he said that getting something like that going in Genesis would be great, but that it's just it's tough to do. And I gotta think too, for something as big as Genesis, and something where, Genesis so prides itself on being reliable, rock solid code, that this represents a pretty significant change. And so I can see how it would be on the to-do list, but further down the road, potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's mostly just in your CSS, isn't it? It's not so much. It's not like you're making change to the actual code base.
No, but that's what I mean right. So in that sense, yeah, it's not so big, but just the possible implications in terms of display. Although,
yeah,
if
say
they
say oh, the next child theme, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, right.
And then after that, that's what we're gonna do.
But think about the support implications there. Every time, even when they changed the table of content structure in their style sheets, there was this, I don't want to say backlash, but this roar of, oh, what am I looking at? It took people a while to get used to. So unless they're ready for a support onslaught, making a big change like that.
Oh, style.css is style.css. You know what I mean? It's you go find it. You use Firebug's going to tell you where it's at, or what it is you need to do. It's the same thing. You're just, there's some people's kids, man.
Honestly, I'm never inviting you back.
Some people's kids.
While we're waiting on some new questions to roll in on the old Twitter feed, I wanted to mention next week. Oh wait, no, not next week. 2 weeks from now, for July 10th, I will be traveling, so there will not be a live Genesis Office Hours, but I'm going to experiment with pre-recording it. So I do have some guests lined up, and instead of sending, since we clearly won't be around live to answer questions, I've got a form set up over on carriedills.com/POH.
I think you should just have Mickey and me do it.
This was actually a test to see if I could trust you to do it, Ozzy, but you failed.
How did I fail? You brought great stuff into this discussion.
You brought the sirens. You brought the fuzz down.
No, Mickey brought the sirens.
Yeah,
I brought the party.
We'd all just be agreeing if Ozzy wasn't here. It'd be like everyone would have one sentence per conversation, and then, yep, we have all this. Yeah. Gotta have that voice.
Check. It's over in 30 seconds. Yeah, so you can submit your questions ahead of time for that episode. And then we've had some feedback that some people, if they want a commute length episode of Genesis Office Hours, so we'll probably shoot for that one, make it about 45 minutes or so. Let's see, Devender comments, going back to Ozzy, you're saying that just anybody can open up style.css as style.css, but that's intimidating for some folks.
Yeah, but those people aren't doing it now, right?
That's a good point.
That's true.
You're not. That's not like you're alienating anybody.
So Jackie has a great question. And how do you stay up to date on changes in CSS or what's kind of coming down the pipeline, or and then how do you know? I would guess I'd tack on a question alongside that of if you want to be bleeding edge CSS, but then you've got the browser support to deal with. So what's the kind of middle ground there of keeping your knowledge up to date, but still using what's got the most wide acceptance? If that makes sense. No, it didn't.
No, just to answer that most simply. Do you guys listen to Shop Talk, the podcast with Chris Coyer? And, oh God, I'm blanking on his name now.
I love it.
So the sound clip, just build websites. I swear by that. I mean, I think working at this shop, one of the best things has been just project after project after project. And so staying up to current CSS standards, it's sort of automatic. The best way I learn is building a project, having something new I want to do, CSS transitions, that's big now. What does that look like? Let me Google that. Let me read 20 things on CSS transitions. Now I kind of know what the current state of CSS transitions is. So I honestly think just having a project it's almost better to spend like half my time working on the project and half my time researching than it would be to just decide something I'm curious about and research, because then I have an end goal in mind, something I have to make or want to make, and that warrants having to do the research to build what I want to build. And I feel up to speed doing it that way. I feel pretty current on it.
Yeah, I would do total +1 to Shop Talk. It's a great way to
Everyone should listen to that.
kind of hear what's going on. And those guys are funny. I mean, but if you can only listen to one podcast a week, don't go ditching Genesis Office Hours for Shop Talk. Just kidding.
Yep.
Another question for you, Mickey. Have you thought about expanding your in-person website courses to an online version?
Yeah, we had. We actually thought about like potentially. Well, we have done like Skype classes before. Typically, every time we teach a course, we'll take like one or two people who could Skype in. It doesn't happen much, but we will do it. But we tossed around the idea of like recording it and trying to turn it into a series or something like that. But it'd be tough to do because it's pretty informal. I mean, we're following a structure, but there's a lot of discussion and stuff that happens. So the short answer is yes, and decided sort of no, not to. But if anyone's out there is interested, we can totally make it happen for our next class. I think we've got a class coming up next month, July.
All right. You can shoot me a link or publish that later so we can
that I can do.
Peek over your shoulder, see what's going on. Let's see. Got sirens or violence, which is worse? These are the big questions of the day in GOH chat. Jason wants to know, Mickey, if you still use your mobile first child theme for the sites. So is Trestle the basis of all your sites?
Yeah, right. So now pretty much. So the Genesis mobile first theme was sort of the first iteration, and now we have a new starter theme we use called Trestle, which has been an ongoing project, and we basically just built that out from the mobile first theme. Mobile first was just the CSS. It was the only thing we touched. And now our starter theme has some functionality stuff built into it too. So like when you go to Genesis settings, there are all the settings for Genesis there and for your site. And so it adds in some settings there that we use. Which I know Gary is like crying right now because it should all be out in a plugin. But this was back in the day when we were just like, oh, let's just try this in a theme. So the answer is we're using Trestle, and hopefully in the future we'll be building that out in plugin form as much as possible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ozzy, you haven't said anything in a while. You doing all right over there?
I'll answer which one's worse, the sirens or the violence, and I'll say the worst thing is the high house prices that we have to pay and deal with all of that.
It's violent on your wallet.
That's right.
Ozzy, have you had bad experiences in Oakland?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I've just all of like so I moved out here in 2000, and I was told, oh, don't go to Oakland. It was like, don't go to East Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I have like friends that like love going to Oakland. I just love not going with them.
What's happening in East Palo Alto?
You know what? I'll come up there. We'll do lunch one day. You can show me your nice view of the city.
We'll just stay in the building. We won't go outside.
Oh yeah, we'll bring it. We'll bring takeout in. It's good.
Yeah. Shut the blinds. Like, don't even look out there. It's nice.
We have a plant.
Yeah.
Mickey, you have an admirer. You might be getting chocolates and flowers later.
From Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael. What's that?
I think he's probably drawn to your beard.
Look at his. Can you see that?
Yeah, he's got an amazing beard. I think he hides things in there, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't met Michael in person, but that is an amazing beard.
Michael I know because on managedwp.org he and I are always like racing each other to have the most karma. We're like, I overtake him, he overtakes me, and so we're like, who can repost Tom McFarlane's post the earliest in the morning? You know.
Well, if he's not on West Coast time, he has the advantage.
I know.
That's
So I
not
wake up
fair.
super early to do it. Yeah.
Elizabeth has a question. Any plans for anyone to have a plugin for responsive headers that work with HTML5? Elizabeth, I don't know if you're talking maybe about logos as opposed to full headers. I think Rob New from WP Bacon has got a plugin in the works. Ozzy, do you know anything about that?
He was working on it the other day. I don't know.
No.
The thing is, it's so hard to make them responsive. I don't know. See, I just don't think like you need a plugin for that. But I get, you know, if there's he's gonna do it, he's gonna give it away for free. So, well, whenever he's done with it, it's just a matter of getting him to, you know, go follow at Rob New, Rob_NUE, is it, or NEU? NEU, and just bug him relentlessly to finish the plugin.
Anyway.
Yeah, and hey, are you done with that? Are you done with that responsive like logo plugin yet? Like every 15-20 minutes, and he'll finish it. That's the only way you get him to finish it, though. So just go do that, Elizabeth Crane.
So you heard it here, bug Rob. My typical way of handling responsive or logos in a responsive theme is to first use a CSS background to put my logo in, as opposed to using an image uploader. And then when you get down into your media queries, just pop in a different image for that spot that fits the space, so that you've always got and usually it only takes two. So say you've got a full-size image at your full screen, and then somewhere, whenever you drop to maybe everything going to a full width or centered layout, drop down to a logo that's about 300 pixels wide. I don't know, Mickey.
Most people's logos are smaller than that, though. Like you don't even need to mess.
Yeah, if you're
you don't even need to mess with the media queries.
Unless you're dealing with like a full image header, like it's spanning the full width. I'm not a huge fan of those from just a design perspective, but they're out there. I don't know. Mickey, what's your take?
Yeah, so Trestle actually does this right now, but it does it in a way that is not the greatest. And if you look at how people are doing it out there, I mean, Ozzy, you're talking about like the X theme, and one of the ones we deal with is Jupiter, and they just do it. So like if you want it super easy responsive, you just stick an image in there, you output it, an image tag, and make it 100% width, max width, la la la, and all that, and it'll just shrink down. And you can do retina and all that too if you want. And the way it works is with hiding it, which is not semantically the right way. I mean, if it's a non-content-based image, it shouldn't be a tag. It should be CSS and all that. Trestle does that right now because we have enough clients who want to be able to change their logo in and out that we just do it that way to output. And with what is it, background size? No, what is it, background?
Yeah, background size cover.
Background size cover. As support for that increases, it's going to be a lot easier to do across all browsers, and you can from IE 9 up, I think. And I don't know about mobile support though across the board.
Yeah.
But that's
cover works. Yeah.
Had of like how should we do this, and right now we just did it in the simplest way possible for our users to be able to change things in and out. But it is plugin time or a good solution, good tutorial. I'd love to see a great tutorial on how to do this if you want to code it yourself versus using a plugin.
I actually just wrote that tutorial while we were chatting.
There you go. This is the header image.
God. I wish I knew how to blog, because then I could whip it out. I could be like, oh, look at that. I did this.
Add a logo to change this theme.
But alas, I did
this.
The vendor wants to know if you have an e-commerce plugin or solution you like the most these days. I think it just depends on what your usage is, what the best one for the job is. If it's not a physical product, I'm in love with easy digital downloads.
I think WooCommerce does a pretty good job of I've used EDD. I think WooCommerce does a pretty good job with even digital products now. They've come a long way. I think EDD is probably going to be more inexpensive. I mean, they're both. Those are the two major ones that I use, though. They're both pretty good.
Hmm.
Ditto.
You, Mickey? Yeah.
We don't do actually. We haven't done that much e-commerce. So and not in tandem with Genesis. So yeah, I mean those are the two. Those are the two I hear about.
WP e-commerce, which was really the first e-commerce plugin for WordPress back in the day, has gotten a nice makeover. I haven't gotten to use it on a project because I tend to purposefully shy away from e-commerce projects, but Devender, that might be another one to check out. All right.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I don't think I've used that. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll just try it out.
I used it on a project several years ago, and I think it was my first e-commerce project, and probably why I'm so scared of them to this day. Be worth taking a look at. And then, of course, Michael is bringing up iThemes Exchange, which is iThemes, the guys that make Backup Buddy, and they also have their e-commerce product exchange. I haven't gotten to try that out either, but I know they produce generally pretty cool things over there. So, yeah, I think it really just depends on what your situation is, what problem you're trying to solve, and then each of those plugins is going to have a little bit of a different strength that might suit you in a depending on your situation. All right, well, guys, we're getting close up on the hour here, so this is the part where I ask you what your new favorite tool is that you're using, either in your workflow or a plugin, or I don't know, what's making your life better.
Gosh, I'll have to think about that. A new one?
Or maybe it's an old one that you just found out about because you're behind the times.
That never happens. I don't know. You go first, Michael.
So it's sex sells. I'm looking at this last post.
He's just
Thanks a lot, Medeiros. Hell yeah, Medeiros.
I'm gonna favorite that immediately.
Medeiros knows what's up. I'll even shave
talk about that
when we co-host GOH together.
Well, he managed to totally derail us. You got a favorite tool you're using?
Yeah, I can speak to one. One that's like saved our butts a bazillion times now is Blog Vault. It's an equivalent to VaultPress, and it's run by this guy, and I think his team. I know they have a team, but I think he's the lead guy named Akshat. And it's a backup tool, migration tool, and it's just amazing. It's like super quick, one-click backups, rollbacks, version control, essentially, of our various backups, manual backups, automatic backups, and quick migrations. And their support's been fantastic. I mean, I'll ping him at any time of day, and he usually gets back to me within an hour. So, yeah, Blog Vault, I love. And if you're managing a ton of sites and need to ensure that, regardless of what the client's doing on their end, that you've got backups, or if you're moving from dev to live and back and forth a lot and need it to be quick and painless, Blog Vault's fantastic.
It sounds like another blog post on your agenda.
We have. Let me write it right now.
Sarah, to answer your question about why I shy away from e-commerce projects, I don't like dealing with payment processors generally. There's so many factors, and no project is exactly the same. And I just find that I typically bid them poorly and lose money on them every time. But that could just be I'm a terrible consultant. I know other people. Other people love them. We're getting a +1 on the Blog Vault.
I use I talked about it on WP Bacon, but I use Migrate DB Pro like nonstop. Um, that's saved me so much time over the past. I think I've been using it for about a year now. But as far as migrating stuff from live to dev or back and forth, so it makes my life way easier. So I think they have a free version, and I don't know what the difference between the free and the pro version is, but the pro version is awesome. I don't know if I've tried the free version.
I ponied up for the developer version of that, and one difference for sure is that it includes the media.
Okay.
Media component. So in addition to pulling over your database, it'll pull over all your media and keep your links intact and whatnot. I love Migrate DB Pro. That was a fantastic purchase. That and then desktop server saved me quite a bit of time. All right. Well, we will wrap up another exciting episode of Genesis Office Hours. As usual, you can find the show notes over on carrydills.com after the fact. And Ozzy, I know
Yes.
people are going to want to follow up with you and say hello and stalk you. Where can they do that?
You can find me on Twitter at OzzyR, OZZYR, not IE. Or you can go to my website at OzzyRodriguez.com and leave comments or fill out the contact form and send me cool pictures and stuff.
Fantastic. And I won't comment on that. Mickey, where can people find you online?
Twitter's probably the best place. You see my handle down below at McGive7, spelled the wrong way. Or check us out. I mean, our blog right now is where I'm working at Mighty Minnow. And my personal site is outdated now that I've been working here, so probably not the place. But Twitter's great. Yeah, or email or GitHub if you want to talk about one of those projects.
Okay, cool. And if you want to check out his starter theme Trestle, it's up on GitHub as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us over on the Twitters, and we will see you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me on, Carrie.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie.